Games were an important part of daily life in ancient Rome, offering entertainment, relaxation, and social interaction across all levels of society. Among the most popular were table games, played with dice, counters, or boards, which combined elements of chance, strategy, and skill. Archaeological evidence, literary references, and artistic depictions reveal how widespread these games were, from the homes of ordinary citizens to the villas of the wealthy and even within the military camps of Rome's legions. Roman table games were not only a pastime but also a reflection of cultural values and influences. Many had roots in Greek traditions, while others developed locally or were adapted from the diverse regions absorbed into the empire. Some games, like Alea or Tesserae, relied heavily on dice and the thrill of chance, often associated with gambling despite official disapproval. Others, such as Ludus Latrunculorum, a strategic board game sometimes compared to chess or drafts, emphasized tactics and were admired for sharpening the mind. Simpler games, like tabula or variations of three in a row, were accessible to all and enjoyed by both adults and children. These games served multiple purposes. They were a way to pass leisure hours, to build camaraderie among friends and soldiers, and, in the case of gambling, to experience the excitement of risk and reward. They also provide insight into Roman society itself, the tension between official restrictions and popular enthusiasm, the blending of cultures within the empire, and the universal human enjoyment of play. Today, the surviving boards, dice, and written accounts allow us to reconstruct aspects of these ancient pastimes. In exploring Roman table games, we not only glimpse how people amused themselves 2 millennia ago but also recognize the timeless nature of gaming as part of human culture.
Table games were a popular form of entertainment in ancient Rome, enjoyed by people across social classes, from common citizens and soldiers to senators and emperors. Played in homes, taverns, bathhouses, and military camps, these games combined elements of chance, skill, and strategy, reflecting both leisure and aspects of Roman culture. Archaeology has preserved gaming boards scratched into stone steps or pavements, dice carved from bone, ivory, or glass, and literary references that give us glimpses into how Romans passed their time. One of the most widespread forms of entertainment involved dice. Known as Tesserae or Alea, dice games were easy to play and often involved gambling. Players would roll dice to achieve certain combinations, betting on the outcome. Despite laws that technically prohibited gambling outside of special festivals like Saturnalia, it remained a favorite pastime, and emperors themselves were known to indulge. Augustus, for instance, was described as fond of dice games. The appeal lay in their simplicity and the thrill of risk and reward. Another major table game was Ludus Latrunculorum, or the game of little soldiers. This was a strategic board game played with counters, somewhat comparable to drafts or chess, though the exact rules are debated by scholars. The object appears to have been to outmaneuver an opponent's pieces and capture them, reflecting the Romans' fascination with military tactics and discipline. It was considered a game of skill rather than chance, and contemporary writers praised it for sharpening the intellect. The game of tabula was also widely played and is seen as a forerunner of modern backgammon. It used a board marked with lines or squares, 3 dice, and pieces that were moved according to the throws. The aim was to move all of one's pieces around the board and off it before the opponent could do the same. Tabula combined both strategy and luck, making it a game of enduring popularity throughout the later Roman and Byzantine world. Simpler games, often enjoyed by children as well as adults, included variations of 3 in a row, turni lapilli. Boards for this game, consisting of grids of intersecting lines, are frequently found carved into stone in public places such as steps and benches. Players used small stones or counters, attempting to form rows while blocking their opponent, a concept familiar today in games like tic-tac-toe. These table games reveal much about Roman life. They were not just diversions but social activities, fostering camaraderie among soldiers, families and friends. They could also involve competition, gambling, and even moral debates, as philosophers sometimes criticized their frivolity or association with vice. Yet their widespread popularity shows that Romans, like people everywhere, valued play as part of daily life. The legacy of Roman table games is still with us. Many modern games, from backgammon to strategy board games, trace their ancestry to Roman pastimes. In the dice and boards left behind, we find a timeless reminder: across centuries, people have always sought joy, connection, and challenge in the simple act of play.
Настольные игры были неотъемлемой частью жизни древних римлян. Несмотря на то, что Рим был известен в основном большими играми на аренах, настольные игры также пользовались огромной популярностью и часто были азартными. Древние римляне встречались в публичных местах или у друзей, чтобы поиграть в разные игры. Это отмечается как в сообщениях античных авторов или в росписях на стенах. Настольные игры выгравированы на многих зданиях в публичных местах той эпохи. Одна из самых распространенных игр в Древнем Риме была дуодецим. Походный игровой набор из складного кожаного поля с прилагавшимися к нему фишками и игральными костями, принадлежавший римскому солдату 20-го легиона, был найден в Британии. Официально эта игра была запрещена как слишком азартная. Игровое поле было дощечкой, разлинованное на 2 ряда по 12 квадратов. Изначально все фишки каждого игрока выстраивались в башню на первом квадрате. Если же сделать квадраты игровых полей достаточно большими, чтобы на них можно было уместить все 15 фишек, доска становилась слишком громоздкой. Поэтому поля вытянули в высоту и их нумерацию перенесли к середине доски. Такой вариант игры стал называться табула, что означает доска. Фишки изготавливали из слоновой кости, черного дерева. Игральные кости изготавливали из цветного стекла. Перед игрой фишки помещали в специальные круглые чашки. Правила табулы были следующими. У каждого игрока было по 15 фишек. Все фишки вступают с первого поля и двигаются против часовой стрелки. Играют 3 костями, и эти 3 числа определяют ходы между 3 фишками. Результат броска делится между фишками или суммируется. Перед тем, как начать движение, фишки выставляются на доску согласно выброшенным очкам. Например, выбросив 6, 3, 1, можно выставить на поле 3 фишки в ячейке 6, 3 и 1, при условии, что в них нет 2 или более фишек противника. Если там уже стоит 1 фишка противника, она считается срубленной и снимается с доски. Любая часть броска, которая не может быть использована, теряется. Но игрок обязан использовать все выпавшие очки, если это возможно. Если у игрока 2 или более фишки на одной ячейке, эта клетка закрыта для противника, и эти фишки не могут быть срублены. Ни один из игроков не может войти во вторую половину доски, пока все фишки не выставлены на доску. Ни один из игроков не может начать выводить фишки с доски, пока все его фишки не войдут в последнюю четверть доски. Римская игра табула – предшественник современных нарт. Табулой увлекались в Древнем Риме все, включая императоров. Высказывание Юлия Цезаря при переходе пограничной реки Рубикон на севере Апеннинского полуострова
LXXIX
переводится как «жребий брошен». Это высказывание относится именно к табуле. Выражение означает «выбор сделан», либо рискнуть всем ради великой цели. а также используются, чтобы подчеркнуть необратимость происходящего. После произнесения этих слов Цезарь во главе своей армии вступил на территорию Северной Италии. Так началась длительная гражданская война Цезаря против Римского сената во главе с Помпеем Великим. Цезарь шел на определенный риск, располагая всего лишь небольшим количеством легионов. Одна из игр называлась «Мельничное колесо». Игровое поле представляло собой колесо с 8 спицами. Каждый камешек игрок мог поставить на одной из 8 точек, на внешнем кольце или в центре колеса. Существовали также четырехугольные доски для этой игры, на которых было только 4 линии от углов к центру. Как только все 3 фишки были размещены, игроки могли передвигать одну из них на смежную точку в свою очередь. Целью игры было сформировать прямую линию из 3 фишек. Римляне играли в самые простые игры, например, в макатио. Ее еще называли мелькание пальцев. Когда 2 игрока одновременно показывают несколько пальцев на одной руке, следует угадать общее количество пальцев, показанных обоими игроками. Играли римской монеткой в игру «Орел и решка». Игра еще называлась «Голова-корабль» (Capita aut navem). Надо было угадать, с какой стороной упадет подброшенная монета. Еще одна простейшая игра называлась Par Impar – чет или нечет, когда ведущий зажимал в кулаке несколько камешков, а игрок должен отгадать, четное ли количество этих камушков. Наиболее популярной настольной игрой в Древнем Риме, как и во многих других древних цивилизациях, были классические кости. Простые кости назывались аллеа. Тогда они выглядели точь-в-точь, как шестигранный кубик для настольной игры. Каждый игрок бросал 3 кубика и побеждал тот, чья сумма очков была наивысшей. Приз рассчитывался следующим образом. Суммы кубиков обоих игроков складывались, и проигравший должен был заплатить это количество победителю.
While the mechanics of many ancient Roman table games are intriguing, their wider significance lies in how they reflected the rhythms of Roman society. Games were more than pastimes, they were a mirror of Roman culture, serving as outlets for leisure, tools for social bonding, and, at times, sources of moral concern. In the bustling cities of the empire, table games were often played in public spaces. Archaeologists have discovered numerous game boards, scratched into paving stones, steps of amphitheaters, and benches in forums. These casual settings suggest that games were not confined to private households but were part of communal life. Taverns, too, were centers of gaming, where dice and simple boards offered amusement for patrons. The association of gaming with drinking and gambling often drew criticism from moralists, who argued that such activities encouraged idleness and vice. Yet this disapproval did little to diminish the popularity of games across all social classes. In the domestic sphere, table games had a gentler, family-oriented role. Literary sources mention children playing simple versions of board games, learning patterns and strategies while also enjoying play. Elite households, meanwhile, used games as part of refined leisure, particularly those emphasizing skill and strategy. This duality, games as both innocent pastime and potentially corrupting pleasure, illustrates the complexity of Roman attitudes toward play. The Roman army also played a significant role in spreading table games. Soldiers stationed in distant provinces carried with them their dice, counters, and boards. Excavations along Hadrian's Wall, for example, have uncovered gaming pieces and boards, evidence that games provided relief from the rigors of military life. Through the movements of the legions, Roman games spread to Britain, Gaul, and beyond, influencing local cultures and leaving a lasting mark on European traditions. Religious and ritual contexts cannot be overlooked. Dice, for instance, were sometimes used in forms of divination, reflecting a belief that chance could reveal the will of the gods. This blurred the boundary between play and spirituality, underscoring how deeply games were woven into the fabric of Roman thought and practice. The materials of the games themselves also reflect social hierarchy. Wealthier Romans owned beautifully carved dice of ivory, glass, or precious stones, as well as decorated boards with inlaid patterns. In contrast, ordinary citizens and soldiers made do with bone dice, pebbles, or simple wooden counters. Yet despite these differences in materials, the essential experiences of play were shared, highlighting the universal appeal of gaming. The legacy of Roman table games is unmistakable. Tabula evolved into backgammon, which remains popular worldwide. Strategic games like Ludus Latrunculorum foreshadowed later European board games that valued tactics and planning. Even casual games like Tali survive in the modern tic-tac-toe. By studying these games, we uncover more than just rules and mechanics. We discover how Romans laughed, competed, and relaxed. They remind us that across time and culture, the human impulse to gather around a board, roll the dice, and test our luck or skill is timeless.
Ancient Roman table games offer us a fascinating glimpse into the everyday lives of people who lived 2,000 years ago. Far from being trivial diversions, they reveal the social habits, cultural values, and even anxieties of Roman society. Dice games like LXXIX spoke to the human love of chance and risk, even as laws tried to curb gambling. Strategic games such as Ludus Latrunculorum reflected Roman ideals of order, discipline, and military cunning, while more accessible games like Turney Lapilli show that play was not restricted to elites but was a shared experience across age and class. These games also underscore the communal nature of Roman life. Whether scratched into stone steps at a forum, played in a tavern, or passed around in a family villa, table games brought people together. They offered moments of leisure amid the demands of work and war, strengthening bonds within households, between soldiers, and among friends. At the same time, they carried an edge of competition and unpredictability, qualities that mirrored the uncertainties of life in the empire itself. Today, their legacy endures not only in surviving artifacts but in the influence they had on later European games, many of which we still play in some form. To study Roman table games is to remember that play is a universal human instinct, timeless, adaptive, and deeply meaningful. In the roll of a die or the careful placement of a counter, Romans expressed the same desire for fun, challenge, and companionship that continues to unite people around tables across the world today.